Well, g'day everybody and welcome back. We're going to progress a little bit with the engine today. I spent a week in Queensland up to visit my daughter for her birthday and got to catch up with a few mates, including Raf Solomon out at Mosson's Cafe and Customs. I dropped in and had a look at the shop, and because Raf and I have been mates for a couple of years, but I've never seen his shop, and I thought I'd go and have a quick look around there. So if you're in Brisbane and you're after some custom work, Raf's your man. He can. They've got a lot of customer bikes sitting out the front waiting to be worked on, and they had a couple of cool bikes in there when I was there. So that was all good. Got to catch up with my son, who's an apprentice motorcycle mechanic up there in Queensland, and give him a brand new set of JOS screwdrivers, which will come in very handy for him. And he had a great idea. Let's go go-karting, Dad. So we did, and I managed to get the red mist, as you do, and you're out there boring around with 20 other blokes that don't necessarily know how to drive, and I was carrying a fair bit of speed through a corner only to find somebody turned around in front of me. All I could do was try and wash off some speed. I broadsided them, and I have absolutely caned my rib cage. So here we are over a week later, and I'm still in a lot of pain. But that's all right, we'll work through it. While I was away, I took the barrels and I gave them to a local machine shop and just asked them to bead blast all those 15 layers of paint off them and give them a line home. So let's have a look at that. Welcome to Basket Case. Okie dokie, these are the barrels that came off the engine that's currently in the bike, and I can run my finger up there and I can feel real fairly significant wear in all of these barrels. So what I decided to do was, rather than waste my time on it, now I think that this will probably be a good candidate for a big bore kit later, so I'm going to hang on to it. But I got that crusty old barrel that came with the original engine, and I had it cleaned up, and this is it. So we've got I just asked them to see if I can give a bit better light there. I can't really help too much, but yeah, I just asked them to give it a good bead blast, and don't take anything out of the bores, just give it a light hone and put a cross hatch back in, which they've done. And then I got it home and I cleaned it up and painted it. It was a mission to get the other block off the bike. Yamaha, in their wisdom, have left open the bolts that secure the barrel and the cylinder head are out in the atmosphere, and of course it gets full of gunk.
Rightio, try again. Shit.
I didn't pick up on that straight away, but listen, do yourself a favour. If you're going to pull the barrel off, before you strip the bike, get in there with like CRC or RP7 or WD-40 or something and spray it around, and an air duster, and blow as much of the crap out of there. Clean as much out as you can before you attempt to lift it off, because you're going to end up with a mess like I did. But yeah, so I reckon even with that broken fin, that a blind man on a galloping horse would be happy to see that. So it's all cleaned up. I've repainted it in gloss black engine enamel, and it's ready to go. So the next job was to clean up the pistons. Righto, this is a piston out of the engine that's in the bike, and as you can see, it's pretty crusty. It's not overly horrible under there, but it's crusty to say. It's crusty anyway. And if you pull the rings out, just use your thumbnails, lift it off. That was the top compression ring. This is the bottom compression ring. Being careful not to scratch the piston. And these are the oil rings, and their job is to scrape the oil down and return it to the sump so it doesn't get up into the cylinder head. You can also see some wear here on this piston. Now, I don't know whether you can see, but in that groove there is a series of holes, and also just underneath the oil ring groove is another series of holes. Now their job is to return the oil back to the sump, and on this piston and all the other ones that came out of the other block, they're all blocked, and it's all crusty, and that is a result of a failure to do regular oil changes. It's what you call oil sludging, particularly bad when you're using unleaded fuels. So what I had to do was, with the other pistons, I've washed them thoroughly in degreaser, and then I spent an absolute age soda blasting them, because it's very important that you get all of these grooves clean. But we still have a problem with because soda blasting does take forever, and like I spent hours out there. I think I went through about 10 bags of bicarbonate of soda. There was more white powder than an Oscars after party. What I've got here is a 1.5mm drill bit in a what they call a pin vise, and I just need to now go through and clear all of those holes, and then give it another good wash before it can all go back together, because they are extremely crusty. I did try to do this with some tip cleaners for oxyacetylene torches. This one's really solid, but I couldn't push it through. They're that full. So it's very important, and you can see, I don't know whether you can see, but there's all this, see all that crap? But not good. Right, just make sure that all of these also are clear. These pistons are perfectly fine to use. They don't have any wear to speak of, but they do have lots of crap in there. So here's a tip cleaner. Let's go through. That one's still got too much crap in it. That one's still got too much crap in it. That one's alright. Let's go through them, give them a good thorough clean. Alright, so all of those holes are now clear, and you can see light through them beautifully. This is piston number 4. You can see I've centre popped. Before you pull the pistons off the con rods, make sure you go along with a little centre pop or some way of identifying them. So that's the front, you can see the arrow anyway, but that's the front of piston number 4, and that piston is now clean and ready to go back on the bike. It had a lot of build up in here as well, a lot of oil sludging, but despite all that, it's come up really good. The important thing is that all of these ring grooves are absolutely spotless, and you don't want to scratch them up either, so that's why I was using the soda blasting. It does take a long time to do, but I think the results speak for themselves. Now if your pistons are slightly undersized, you can peen them back out again. There's machines where you throw in all these little triangular shaped weights that go into the piston, and you shut the lid and it vibrates them, and it actually expands the piston expander if you want to recover your old ones. I'm doing this on the cheap, remember, and I'm sort of savvy enough to know that I don't need new pistons, but if in doubt, just go and get yourself a new set. But I'm trying to avoid the cost. Right, onward. Right, all clean. There are 26 holes in each piston, and each of those I had to hand drill with the pin vise, and then hand file with the tip cleaner, and then put them in degreaser and wash the whole piston and scrub them with a little bottle brush, and then hosed them out with water, and then air dried them, and yeah, they're all good. So 104 holes across the 4 cylinders and 3 or 4 operations for each. It's the price you pay for saving money, but like I said, these pistons are perfect. There's absolutely no reason to get rid of them. So they're all good to go, back together. Get them on the conrods next, and put some rings on them. But before I put them on the conrods, I've got to clean up the mess that is at the bottom of the block, where on the casing, where the engine block bolts down to the casing. It needs a good clean up. Right, I'm going to call that a day. It's been a long day. The hardest part with any of these types of engine rebuilds when you're doing them at home is the cleaning, and it just takes hours. You just got to be patient and keep working through it. So thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll be back with more from Basket Case. Bye for now. Get a really good grip of it and pull it out. And the good news, at least, is that these are as hard as a cat's head, so they're most likely why I was getting some oil in. I've got a suspicion though that number 4 cylinder compression was that bad that it's going to have issues with the rings.